Let's start with the first topic. As seen in LaEx PURANA, now we are going to deal with the society part of GS1. Let's start with the first topic, that is the salient features of Indian society. Now when you look at the salient features of Indian society, and when you look at what are the dimensions that are to be included in the notes when you talk about making notes on the salient features of Indian society, the first thing is you have to enumerate what are the salient features of Indian society. Then once you enumerate what are the salient features of Indian society, then we are supposed to talk about what is the status. Because when you look at the salient features of Indian society, it might be your religious diversity, it might be your caste, it might be your tribal diversity, or it might be your racial diversity, or it might be the linguistic diversity. So when you look at the characteristic feature of Indian society, it is all driven with diversity. And not only the diversity, you know that the Indian society has been evolving and it is all dynamic in nature. And we have to certainly talk about what is the status. And once we talk about the status, we have to see what are the changing dynamics with respect to different features of Indian society. And once you understand what are the changing dynamics with respect to the different features of Indian society, then we will also talk about what are the factors that are to be understood with respect to these changing dynamics. What are the factors that are driving this changing dynamics with respect to these features? Now with this background of what dimensions to be made notes upon, you look at the questions, I think most of them will be included of one of these. In 2021 they had asked about India is being considered as a subcontinent. It is fundamentally asking about that India being a region or India being a land with so much of diversity, with so many salient features, that it can be classified as subcontinent. Look at that. Then Indian society unique in sustaining its culture. The fundamental understanding of Indian society being unique in conserving its culture, unique in sustaining its culture, it is again related to diversity. Once you are able to preserve the diversity, once you are able to ensure the dynamism in the diversity, that is the speciality of maintaining the culture, that is the speciality of sustaining the culture. And when you look at this, again, regions with respect to this particular format, you see this, in the context of diversity of India, he said that regions form cultural units rather than states. So it is again talking about what are the specific cultural traits and cultural diversity that is existing. Again, there is one more question. Do we have cultural pockets of small India all over the nation? Again, it is asking about cultural diversity. See, one or the other way of putting the question of diversity as a salient feature of Indian society. We fail to understand this. Once we understand, once we include these four dimensions in the answer, trust me, automatically you would be able to answer any of these dimensions, any of these questions that are asked in last 10 years. You can try it out. You can try it out. Now, one of the questions we will discuss is that describe any four elements of diversity in the India and also rate their relative significance. See this again. It is again asking about the diversity element that we talked about, where we have enumerated in our notes. Once we have enumerated in our notes about the diversity of Indian society and diversity elements and the dynamism and the status, it is asking what are the four different elements. It is asking four elements with respect to the different diversity elements. And apart from these four different diversity elements, it is also asking what is its significance. What is its significance? What is its significance with respect to what? With respect to maintaining the national identity. This is what is the navigation, this is what is the direction of your answer. So in the first part of your answer, we were supposed to talk about the national identity. That in this, see this introduction we have given, that diversity of India created a dichotomy of sub-national tendencies and nationalist ideology. That means that India society or Indian society being a diverse region, it has a lot of scope for sub-nationalist tendencies. And you see that these nationalist tendencies are in conflict with the nationalist ideology. That is what is an introduction, for the reason that it is asking about what is the speciality of diversity in maintaining national identity. Now in this, one very important component of answer writing, one should realize, this is the rule 1 of answer writing, that realize what are the parts that are present, realize what are the number of the parts that are present in the question. You look at this, there are 2 parts that are to be addressed in this question. Once we realize these different parts that are to be involved or that are to be written, we will be able to get the corresponding structure. Because most of you are perplexed, sir, what should be written first, what should be written next? The navigation of the question is very, very simple. So immediately after we introduce about the conflict between the sub-nationalist tendencies and nationalist tendencies, we shift to the elements, the cultural elements. That cultural element can be linguistic diversity, that cultural element can be religious diversity, that cultural element can be ethnic diversity, that can be cuisines, that can be dressing, that can be music. So any of these core elements, for the reason that we have to talk about ethnic diversity, because we have a very, very important element called caste. Indian society is known for caste. Indian society is known for tribal diversity. And we have so much, these four elements. And in the immediate part, and in immediate next part of the answer, we are supposed to evaluate what is its relative significance. That is what is the question asking. Is understanding the question difficult? No. It is easy once you understand how many parts of the question are present. Once you realize the number of the parts, you will be able to get what is the structure. This is how we are moving. I repeat. Right? So the second part is we have to discuss about what is the relative significance in building the national identity. What is the relative significance of the linguistic diversity? We can see that it can even promote, it can also threaten. Because you see that diversity as an element has both. It is a double-edged sword when it comes to the Indian society. It can promote, it can even create a threatening element with respect to the nationalist identity, for the reason that it can promote the sub-nationalist tendencies, maybe based on language, maybe based on caste, maybe based on tribal identity, or maybe based on the racial elements. So it can be, we see that religious identity can also promote the secular practices, but also can also be threatened with an element of communalistic tendencies. We see that ethnic diversity promoting through cultural assimilation, it can also promote through the sub-nationalist tendencies. And what are we doing here? We are giving the point and we are immediately substantiating it with example. Do you all remember that in the introduction I had talked about what are the components of Indian society answer? One component, one very, very important component is examples. Examples. Right? So we can conclude that the principle of unity and diversity has to be upheld to realize the diversity dividend. To realize the diversity dividend of India. Right? So this is one question that we have discussed. So one rule that we have discussed is identify the number of the parts. Then if you want to practice, you can practice this question, that do we have cultural pockets of small India all over the nation? Elaborate with examples. This is one question which you can practice. Thank you.